despite having a population of 334 million, making it the third largest country in the world by population and land area. Much of the United States remains astonishingly underpopulated. In fact, New York City alone houses more people than 9 entire states combined. How is that possible? What's keeping people away from these sprawling, picturesque landscapes? Today, we're going to explore the surprising reasons why almost nobody lives in these 9 American states. Let's kick off our journey with number 9 on the list, Maine. Maine shares a lot with its northern neighbor, Canada: vast pine forests, glacial lakes, rugged coastlines, and plenty of moose. With all this natural beauty, you'd think Maine would be densely populated, right? Surprisingly, Maine's population hovers around just 1.4 million, much lower than other East Coast states. The reason? The weather. Almost all Mainers live in the southern part of the state or along the coast, where the winters are milder. The rest of Maine? It's like living in an endless winter straight out of Game of Thrones. The winters are long, harsh, and unforgiving, which is why 89% of the state is covered in forest, with little industry to speak of. Young people often leave the state in their 20s, returning only when they're ready to retire, if at all. With a median age of 44.8 years, Maine has the oldest population in the country. Next on our list is Montana, a cowboy's paradise with endless grasslands to the east and towering mountains to the west. Despite its massive size of 147,000 square miles, bigger than Japan, Montana is home to just 1.1 million people. With only 7.5 inhabitants per square mile, it's the third least densely populated state in the country. Why so few people? For starters, Montana doesn't offer much in the way of big city amenities, which millennials and Gen Zers typically seek. Billings, the largest city, has a population just over 100,000, and some smaller towns are so remote that it can take hours just to reach the nearest Walmart. And then there's the weather. Rogers Pass in Montana recorded the coldest temperature in the contiguous U.S. at a bone-chilling minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Some parts of the state get snow every single month of the year. While visiting Glacier National Park in the summer might sound idyllic, living in Montana year-round is a different story. Rhode Island and Montana couldn't be more different. While Montana is vast and rugged, Rhode Island is small, coastal, and relatively flat. In fact, Rhode Island is the smallest state in the U.S., covering just 1,034 square miles despite its tiny size. Fewer than 1.1 million people live there. The reason? There's simply not enough room for more people. Nearly the entire state, including much of the Providence metro area, is urbanized. With 1,061 people per square mile, Rhode Island has the second highest population density in the U.S. However, the population is slowly shrinking, and other New England states seem to be doing better. The high cost of living and limited room for growth have made it difficult for Rhode Island to attract and retain residents.
Moving on to number 6, Delaware. Delaware is nearly twice the size of Rhode Island at 1,948 square miles, but it's still tiny by state standards, about the size of Anchorage, Alaska. Wilmington, Delaware's largest city, has a modest population of around 70,000. So why isn't Delaware home to any major cities? Despite being the registered home of more than 2 million companies, Wilmington had the potential to grow into a significant urban center, but its proximity to Philadelphia stunted its growth. Philadelphia's rich history and strategic location made it the preferred choice for development. Delaware's economy has never relied on major cities. Instead, it's driven by beach tourism and the state's favorable tax laws, which don't generate many local jobs. However, Delaware's beaches have become a major draw for retirees, leading to a 1.4% population increase in the last year, bringing the state's total population to just over 1 million. South Dakota is famous for one of the most iconic landmarks in the United States, Mount Rushmore. But beyond that, there's not much else to draw people to this vast, remote state. With a population of just 899,000, South Dakota ranks as the 5th smallest state in terms of population and density. Despite being 177% larger in land area, South Dakota has fewer people than Jacksonville, Florida. Most of South Dakota's residents live in rural areas, with the economy largely dependent on agriculture and mining. Because of this, the state never needed large urban centers. Combine that with the fact that it's freezing cold for much of the year, and it's no wonder people aren't flocking to South Dakota. If you think South Dakota is remote and empty, wait until you hear about North Dakota. This state takes all of South Dakota's challenges and amplifies them. North Dakota has some of the darkest and coldest winters in the lower 48 states, with summers that are hot, humid, and prone to severe flash flooding. It's no surprise that fewer than 780,000 people call North Dakota home. The state is also incredibly far from any major cities, making it difficult to access supplies and services. Despite the abundance of cheap land, North Dakota never developed a significant industrial sector or population center. As a result, North Dakota's population is smaller than that of Winnipeg, a city just 70 miles north of the state. Now, let's head to Alaska, the largest state in the Union. Alaska is so massive that if you cut it in half, each piece would still be larger than Texas. Covering a staggering 665,000 square miles, most of Alaska is remote and difficult to access. Villages can be hundreds of miles apart, and driving to many of the larger cities is impossible. To reach the nearest non-Alaskan U.S. city, you'd have to drive 2,200 miles through northern Canada, a journey that takes 40 hours. But while Alaska's natural beauty is undeniable, the wilderness can be a harsh and unforgiving place to live. Winters average minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, with less than 4 hours of daylight, and only 733,000 people are brave enough to endure them. With a population density of just 5.2 people per square mile, Alaska is one of the least densely populated places on Earth. Although Alaska offers residents an annual dividend from oil revenue, the state's high costs and struggling economy might make you think twice about moving there. Vermont is known for its charming small towns, maple syrup, and beautiful fall foliage. But despite all this, it's still one of the least populated states in the country, with just 643,000 residents. Vermont's rural charm also means a lack of big cities and job opportunities. Most people here live in small communities, and while that makes for a picturesque lifestyle, it's not exactly what younger generations are looking for. The long, harsh winters also play a significant role in Vermont's low population. While Vermont has a strong sense of community, it's not enough to keep everyone around, especially younger people who often leave the state in search of better opportunities elsewhere. Finally, we arrive at the least populated state in the U.S., Wyoming. With just about 580,000 people spread across its vast 97,000 square miles, Wyoming has fewer residents than Washington, D.C. Wyoming's rugged terrain, which includes mountains and high plains, makes development difficult. The weather is another factor, with cold, snowy winters and hot, dry summers that can be tough to endure. Wyoming's economy has traditionally been based on agriculture and mining, but these industries don't require large populations. With few job opportunities outside these sectors, there's little incentive for people to move to Wyoming. So there you have it, the 9 states in America where almost nobody lives. Each of these states has its own unique challenges, from harsh weather and remote locations to limited job opportunities. But for the people who do live there, these places offer a kind of peace and quiet that's hard to find anywhere else. If you enjoyed this exploration, be sure to check out our other videos on fascinating topics. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.